Now let's chat about phase 2 of your off season, month 2 of your off season. I'm going to outline exactly what you need to be working on so that you're maximizing your gains on the ice from every single minute that you spend working on your mobility, your strength, your speed, your stamina. Let's go. If you're doing the same training in month 2 of your off season that you were doing in month 1 of your off season, then you are missing out on the progression and on the concepts of overload, which is what's going to take you to the promised land. So today's video, I'm going to walk you through exactly the type of things you should be working on in phase 2 of your off season training. So the second month of your off season is typically, in North America anyways, is typically June. It can vary, again, based on what league you're playing in, that kind of thing. But what are the key things we're going to work on? Big focus of this phase is going to be dynamic core stabilization and rotary power. So when you talk to me about working on your core, really this is what we want to get out of the core. It's not so much about, the crunches or abs or things like that, but it's about how we can stay stable in these various different awkward positions and how we can use our rotary power to initiate movement so that we can move with our head and our hands, but have our hips snap around with us. Let me give you an example. So you will see dynamic core stabilization and rotary power in lots of different exercises. So it could be, working on initiation from a med ball pass, leading with your head and your hands. It could be inline kneeling chops where you have to stabilize using your torso and your hips. Not everything has to be with the medicine ball. It could even just be side plank with a rotation where everything comes together. So in the first phase, we built sort of the stamina. We've worked on the TVA. Now we're starting to add a little bit of movement, challenge that stabilization with movement. Even when we're doing upper body work, working unilaterally, working single arm pec fly, things like that. We'll also progress our power foundation. We started working on this in phase 1, and if you missed, what should we do in the first month of the off season, check out this video here. I walked you through that a month ago, oddly enough, but we started working on some deceleration then, and now we're progressing our power foundation. This is at a time where we would use some Olympic lifts, some plyometrics, maybe box hop ups, not the kind that you see on Instagram where people are jumping on a thing 6 feet tall. That's a discussion for another day. But we'll keep progressing on those so that as we go through in the next phase, building max strength and then converting that strength to power, we have proper mechanics, good efficiency. If we don't take this intermediate step, then we really increase our risk of overuse injuries, tendonitis, that type of thing. For the power foundation, we're going to work again maybe on Olympic lifts. I use those a lot with college or professional athletes who I know are going to get tested on those specifically. So we'll make sure we get those in. We'll start progressing from bilateral to unilateral plyometrics. So can you exert force, decelerate, stabilize on one leg? And honestly, one of my favorite, just very simple peak power exercises is a nice dumbbell squat jump. So just holding a dumbbell in each hand, not that heavy, 5, 10, 15 pounds, and doing repeated jumps. But it would only be for a max of 4 to 6 repetitions, because remember, if we're training power, the volume has to stay low. Some of you will be surprised to hear me say this, but this is also a phase where we do try to add mass to goalies who need mass. So this is typically our younger varsity level goalies, because adding mass does improve strength. So our strength is directly related to cross-sectional area. As we get higher level and you have a goalie that's 25, 26, still playing at quite a high level, this becomes a little less of a concern, but for young goalies, it's important. So we do add some hypertrophy type training to this phase. It's also a time when we start building that bottom-up strength, because the strength you need to get out of your butterfly is very different from the type of strength that you need even when you're just going down and back up again. So top down strength is different from bottom up strength, and a lot of goalies never make that sort of transition to training bottom up strength. Let me show you exactly the exercise I start pretty much everybody with for bottom up strength. For adding mass, we will maybe add an isolation exercise to a superset. So let's say we're doing a one arm row, well then we might add some biceps curl right after that. Or when I design programs for goalies in the Turning Pro coaching program, I actually give them a beach body workout on the weekend where we work on adding a little bit of mass. I talked about bottom up strength, and so a starting point that I'll use is just a bottom up split squat. So holding dumbbells in each hand, coming right to the bottom position, relaxing, no tension in my muscles, and then coming up from that bottom up position to sort of learn how to apply pressure from that. I know it seems like it should be just the same as going from the top down, but it's not. Try it and you'll see. And then of course we'll progress to just a bottom up single leg squat. When you're in net playing in a hockey game, you're not using your aerobic capacity in this box and then your agility in this box. You're using them at the same time. So there is a combination of cardiovascular fitness combined with musculoskeletal stamina, or cardiovascular stamina, I should say, and musculoskeletal stamina. So we combine those. So in the first phase, we just kind of were getting your body accustomed to being back on your feet, doing some ground-based training. We were working a lot on category 2 stamina training. Now we're going to up that capacity even more, challenge you more, but add some agility training to your stamina workouts, so that it's not just, riding the bike for specific intervals. Now it's, changing direction, vertical agility added in there, some static holds, so that it more replicates what you're going to experience in a game. So a really simple example of that, we'll start off by using some shuttle runs. So 100, 200, 300 yard shuttle runs, depending on the level of the athlete. But then when we finish that shuttle run, it isn't just going to be like, okay, now we're going to take our rest. Then we're going to add an iso hold, maybe a post hold to one side, or a squat jump and hold, something to further challenge them to be explosive and powerful, even under fatigue. Which ties into this idea of also arranging some of our stamina workouts so you're getting incomplete recovery. So you really have to learn to manage fatigue and learn that fatigue to a large extent is mental, is psychological. The muscle can keep working. It's more our nervous system that sort of shuts down and says, no, I can't go on. So we're starting to do a bit of that training in this phase as well. We'll get a lot heavier into it in the next phase, but we want to teach you that you can still perform even though you're fatigued. Finally, we want to make sure that we're always reinforcing efficient movement patterns. So, you could have a really fast Formula One race car, but if you have to stop and refuel it, or if it's burning through tires every, 5 laps, then you're never going to win the race. So it's about building that strong engine, but also making sure that the goalie learns how to use it efficiently and how we can expect a high performance, high volume, high intensity while reducing the risk of injury. So our mobility always starts from the inside out, and it always starts from how do we help this goalie do what they need to do on the ice to get into some of those awkward positions. And it doesn't mean we're going to always be working at length or high loads under length, but we're dosing it so that we're getting the adaptations that we need, that you need on the ice to stop the puck, no matter what the position is. When we talk about efficient movements, we spend a lot of time working on this in the first phase of the off season, but we carry it through. A super simple example, in May we worked on deceleration, managing, not letting those knees fall in, let's say. That's a sign. It's not really a problem with your knees. It'll make a problem with your knees, but it's more a problem of your lateral hip. And either it's not strong enough or it's maybe just not smart enough to decelerate that or limit that hip internal rotation is really what you're seeing. So now we'll progress to single leg. Can you still stabilize that hip with the single leg? We'll work on movement patterns. So for example, When goalies, we're working on lateral hops sometimes for our power. Well, some goalies will really side bend away as they do that hop. So teaching them not to side bend away, but to lead, with their head and their hands. When we do our shuttle runs, we spend time reinforcing how we change direction. So with the hockey stop knee punch, so that we're using our big muscles to help us change direction and get that acceleration and the big push rather than just kind of running up and changing direction. Those are the boxes you need to check during your second phase of the off season. For most of us in North America, it's June. Remember, if you missed what to do in phase 1, check out the video here. Also remember, I can't just go to phase 2 unless I've got the adaptations from phase 1. So you really need to build along. Let's say you're just seeing this now and you're like, oh my God, I'm late. I've missed the boat. Go back and start with phase 1 and do 3 weeks, and then 3 weeks of phase 2, and over the rest of the summer, you'll catch up. Consistency is the key. So you can do a very, very hard workout and work really hard and lots of volume off and on. That doesn't give you the returns of consistently working on the right things. And sometimes the right things are very, very hard. Sometimes they're quite easy and actually very boring, but you do them day in and day out. Motivation has nothing to do with it. If you're like, okay, I'm actually confused. I don't know exactly I know what I should be doing, but I don't know how to do it. That's where I come in. I have training programs some that you can download, some where we work together. The link is in the description for you to check all of those out. Otherwise, I will catch you next week. Same bad time, same bad channel. I love you guys. See ya.